How many people have been to the annual seminar?
Que hay people.
So, anybody been to the luncheons at the annual seminar? So the board of directors actually sits on the dais
Realmente en ese momento la junta de directores está
at lunchtime,
en lunchtime.
and the room is filled with about 3,000 people.
Alrededor de 3,000,000 personas.
A friend of mine who was on the board of directors last year,
Uno de mis amigos que estaba en la junta de directores el año pasado,
he walked into that room several years ago as a member,
hace mucho tiempo está como director, como miembro,
saw the board of directors sitting up there,
y por eso en este momento está en la junta de directores.
and he said to himself, I want to do that.
Y él dijo que él quería hacer eso,
And he did it
y él lo hizo.
by investing in his membership,
Su membresía de investigación,
participating,
participación,
giving something back
darle algo también
for those that come behind us.
por todo eso.
Next slide. Sharing your knowledge, certification.
Certificación.
This chapter is well represented with certification. The average chapter is about 10%.
Este capítulo recibe una certificación y cada capítulo, cada parte cuesta el 10%, vale el 10%.
So this chapter has a higher number. Next slide. The 3 designations, I mentioned them earlier.
Él los mencionaba antes, los tres certificados que dan, los 3 reconocimientos.
Those of us that are certified are represented in 77 countries around the world.
Está representada en 77 países alrededor del mundo, está certificado por los profesionales.
Next slide. The significance of certification.
El significado de la certificación.
Which is your top one? Do you have one? Personal achievement. It's very satisfying
Es muy satisfactorio
to have earned the certification,
tener una certificación
and they have the ability to recertify every 3 years.
y ver cómo ha sido construido eso durante 3 años.
So you'll see many job descriptions today
Así que ustedes pueden ver muchas descripciones de trabajo hoy
that will have CPP required.
que necesitamos para el CPP.
Next slide. For the employers,
Para los empleados,
to be able to demonstrate to their
ser
community
capaces de demostrar que pueden estar en esta comunidad,
that the person representing the security function
que la persona representa las funciones de la seguridad
has earned a certification and maintains that certification in the years to come.
obtener una certificación y mantenerla.
Ethical standards. So we talked about the code of ethics at the beginning, where Jennifer did. But we take the ethical standards of the certification very seriously. Next slide. Established in 1977.
Esto que comenzó en el 1977, establecido en 1977.
Next slide. Work experience.
Experiencia de trabajo.
And you can see that we mitigate some experience with education.
Que tiene que ver, se necesitan algunas experiencias que tienen que ver con la educación.
Next
Con los
slide.
certificados.
PCI, Professional Certified Investigator.
Investigador profesional.
Next slide. PSP, see the credentials that are required for all three designations. Do you know how many that we have that have all three? Okay. Next slide. Just trying to see if you guys do anything. So 6,000 plus CPPs.
6,000 PPP.
So then, luckily here, Bogota, very nice number.
Un buen número, Bogotá.
So where's Luis?
¿Dónde está Luis?
Luis, where are you? He's hiding somewhere. So I was going to challenge Luis.
Esto es un desafío para Luis.
I'll get him before I'm done. We'll come back to that. Okay. Next slide. So the seminar and exhibits.
Seminarios internacionales y conferencias, exhibiciones.
The international conference coming up in October in Dallas will have a large number of international members.
La próxima conferencia la tendremos en octubre en Dallas para los miembros.
There'll be an international lounge set up specifically for the international members,
Específicamente para los miembros internacionales.
so that they may network with their colleagues from around the world and around the region.
So vamos a encontrarnos allá con nuestros colegas alrededor del mundo.
A couple of hundred classroom programs over 3 days.
Programas de clase ofrecidos 3 días en la semana.
Similar to what you have here in the next 2 days.
Algo similar a lo que ustedes están haciendo y lo que harán en los próximos días.
Okay, next slide. These are all the advantages of professional development, the webinars.
Desarrollo profesional y con los webinars.
We've been doing executive education with Wharton, one of the well-recognized business schools in the United States.
Una de las escuelas más reconocidas en negocios de Estados Unidos.
And then we also provide special education for any region of the world or chapter of the world that wants it. We would bring that program to the chapter.
También ofrecemos educación especial en algunas regiones.
Next slide. About 5 years ago,
5 años atrás,
we invested significantly in the CSO Roundtable.
estábamos discutiendo temas importantes en la mesa de juntas
Are there any CSO Roundtable members here?
y los miembros que estábamos ahí.
No, so we need to work on that. So we have about 220 CSO Roundtable members from around the world. And they represent the top security position in their organization.
Esto representa como la parte más importante de la organización en cuanto a miembros.
So we'll see that our next group of leadership
Vamos a ver si hay el siguiente grupo de líderes.
will likely come from the CSO Roundtable. Next slide. Standards and guidelines.
Normas y estándares.
So I think in this part of the world, certainly like in India and some other parts of the world, this is where we would have the most impact.
Esto es lo que ha tenido mayor impacto en esta parte del mundo, mayormente que en otras partes.
So we have the opportunity to establish the standards that guide the profession throughout the world.
Para tener esto alrededor del mundo.
So now we're working hard on the ISO. So I have a new interpreter. So we're working on the ISO.
ese orden.
The ANCI, which is U.S.